Them children ain't have no business being in the Chunin exams. Not too long ago, after realizing that I remembered not a goddamn thing about Bleach, I decided to rewatch it, and it was a really great experience. I was able to relive some great anime moments, remember all the things that I had forgotten, and see the events and themes from an angle that I just couldn't when I was younger. It gave me an appreciation for Bleach greater than what I already had, and was kind of just fun to do. So that fun and insight pretty much led me on a small binge of anime from my childhood and early adolescence. And a lot of shows were wasted on my dumb child brain. It's pretty tough to notice how political Kenshin is when you're just trying to master the Futai no Kiwami. I mean, who even knows what a revolution is? And for Trigun, I finally understand everything that went down on that spaceship. So I don't feel so good. But anyway, that journey of seeing the true darkness that was in plain sight within these shows that I watched as a kid led me back to Naruto. Specifically, part 1 of Naruto. I had rewatched sections of pre-time skip Naruto sporadically over time, so rewatching it all together wasn't quite as revealing as other series had been. However, there were a lot of details and in-between moments that, when taken together at once, definitely gave me some thoughts. Enough for a whole lot of video topics. Now, will I make even a fraction of them? No, but they're in my brain. Regardless, this is the one topic that I kept thinking about the most. Probably because many of those other ideas have numerous examples that connect right back to this one topic. That being that Team 7 really shouldn't have been entered into the Chunin exams. Though of course they are the main characters and do possess positive traits, as individuals and as a team, they really lack the necessary skills and abilities to be successful in the exam without having to rely on the plot bending to their main character's status. As most who are watching this video will already know, the Chunin exams are designed to assess whether or not an individual has the qualities to become a middle-level ninja. A ninja who can start going on Real Deal, Evander Holyfield, Tommy's little baby brother Dill, ninja missions, and undertaking true responsibilities. So the test focuses on evaluating attributes that all ninja must have so that while you're out there repping the Pickles clan, you don't fail the mission immediately. Of course, there are also a bunch of political reasons for the Chunin exams that play out somewhat behind the scenes, but for the participants, all that really matters is the judgment of your skills and abilities. That is, unless you're part of a secret plan to overthrow a rival village because the leader of your village was assassinated and then impersonated by a gross snake man who really likes little boys and can't keep his tongue inside his mouth to save his life, cause said tongue often saves his life, and you're a 13-ish-year-old who has the pressure of following a hidden agenda while keeping your psychotic murderous monster-infested baby brother from performing psychotic murderous monster-infested baby brother acts on the other contestants and bystanders. Then yeah, you might have some other stuff on your mind.
I'm done. Cut the show.
But if that's not you, it's all about showing off your skills, baby! In terms of the Konoha Chunin exams, the primary skills that needed to be shown off were information gathering and resolve in the first phase, teamwork, survival, tactics, and obedience in the second phase, and all elements involved in combat prowess during the third phase. However, with those categories in mind, at least to me, it is apparent that even before the exam starts, Team 7 would not do well if judged by those parameters. Before the exam starts, Team 7 has a couple D-rank missions that they go on after returning from the Land of the Waves. Now, depending on whether you watch the anime or read the manga, this portion of the story is portrayed a little bit differently. In the anime, we see the squad actually doing a few missions. On these missions, we see Naruto specifically fail spectacularly at performing some of the easiest tasks known to ninja kind. However, in the manga, They simply say that they're going on a mission, then a time skip occurs, and in almost the next panel, we see a messed up Naruto with Sakura chastising him for going overboard. While the anime most definitely makes it seem worse, the overall takeaway is that Team 7's teamwork and synergy is off. This is not something just left to infer, it's actually stated by Kakashi himself. It's also noted that Naruto and Sasuke have been weird together ever since the mission at the bridge. Honestly, those flags should have been red enough to prevent Kakashi from recommending them for the Chunin exams. Now, of course, every Chunin exam is supposed to be different, so Kakashi wouldn't know exactly what they would need to do for the exam, but he should know that poor teamwork could lead to a disastrous result. And considering the portion of this year's test that ended up requiring the most teamwork was the Forest of Death, that red flag was kind of important. Considering how much emphasis Kakashi placed on teamwork back during the Bell test, the more irresponsible it is for him not only to nominate his team, but to so callously and disrespectfully dismiss both Iruka and Guy's concerns, being that the students aren't ready and they could easily be destroyed by entering the exams, and to be honest, he wasn't really that far off. However, here's where we see another instance of difference between the anime and the manga. In the anime, Iruka creates a couple of scenarios designed to test the preparedness of Team 7. However, in the manga, this just doesn't happen. Whether you believe these tests to be non-canon filler or not is up to you, but I think these short tests make sense because up until that point, Team 7 hasn't really shown much in the way of competency. You have Naruto, who is very hit or miss and struggles with anything that is not combat. Sakura, who has quite literally done nothing at this point, has no special combat abilities and whose intelligence hasn't really shown to be usable in real situations. And Sasuke, who is obviously very skilled but is saddled with having to deal with the previously mentioned Naruto and Sakura. Add on the fact that Naruto is way too concerned with showing up Sasuke and proving himself, along with Sakura, who will let her feelings for Sasuke get in the way of pretty much any and everything, and you have a recipe for terrible teamwork, and overall poor performance in a test that can be life or death. So Iruka at least giving them these tests kind of gives them at least one extra thing under their belt going into the exam. With me going on and on about competency, preparedness, and teamwork, you might be thinking like, did I forget about the mission in the land of the waves? And no, I didn't, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So for now, let's move on to the first phase of the exam. We can skip the fact that Sakura literally says the exam would be too much for her and only gets over it because Sasuke gave her a compliment, and we can skip the pre-application test, and we can also skip Rock Lee piecing up Naruto and Sasuke. So the first phase of the exam begins, and surprisingly, it's a paper test, the Shonen Pro Tag's worst nightmare. The test is designed in a way that forces the vast majority of the test takers to cheat in order to find the answers to the questions. A point system is then put in place to allow for cheating to take place, so long as you don't get caught too often. It's a pretty neat test that first makes you think about the nature of your situation, gather resolve, and then carry out ninja tactics. And Naruto and Sakura both failed this test. Now, Naruto failing is probably pretty obvious. He didn't answer a single question, he didn't ascertain the true purpose of the test, and thus his ability to gather information was never tested. And even if he was able to figure out that he actually was supposed to cheat, I don't know if he really would have had the right skills to do so. Of course, you can never count Naruto out with his creativity in using shadow clones, but getting them set up in this scenario without getting caught seems somewhat unlikely. Sakura, however, basically failed just as bad in my opinion. If the point of the test was to realize that you need to gather information and then do so, well, Sakura didn't do that. Sakura, being the book smart one in the crew, is able to just answer the extremely difficult questions without resorting to cheating, which is good, but overall means absolutely nothing. From what examples they give us of these questions, none of them seem to have any real practical application and therefore don't really help in actually being a ninja. Like, imagine that you are trying out for the basketball team and the coach says the first test is a written one. And on that test, there are questions like, if the humidity in the gym is 5%, the stands are full, the doors are open so there's a 2-mile-per-hour wind entering the gym from the north, and the ball is underinflated by 2%, what angle would you need to shoot the ball to make it from the corner? Like, yeah, if you can answer that question, that's amazing, but not actually gonna help you make that shot in the game. And the people who are gonna make that shot in the game aren't doing these calculations. So while yeah, it is impressive that Sakura can answer these super difficult questions, have to ask what ninja skills is she displaying? And what's worse is that her ability to answer these questions prevents her from ascertaining the true nature of the test, which, much like Naruto, prevented her from having her ability to gather information tested. And also like Naruto, you have to ask, even if she did know, would she have the skills to do anything?
I think not!
And this is already bad, but it gets worse once the special 10th question is introduced. On the test, it's stated that the 10th and final question will be announced later in the exam. When the time comes, the remaining test takers are told that the final question is optional. If you choose to answer the question and you get it incorrect, you and your whole team will fail and never be allowed to take the Chunin exams again. However, you can also choose not to take the final question, but you and your team will fail. The caveat being that you can always take the exam the next time. This is a psychological test designed to test their ability to take on dangerous situations. In real ninja work, you can't deny a mission or pull out of one simply because you or your team may be in danger, or because you don't know what might happen. You have to accept the danger and do what you need to do. Now, Naruto actually passes this part with flying Raijin colors, but Sakura fails pretty bad. Sakura, in an attempt to prevent Naruto's dream from being crushed, is going to quit on his behalf, thus eliminating their team so they can just try again next time. I definitely give her credit for her heart being in the right place, but it's still a failure in the eyes of the exam. If she raised her hand just a bit sooner, or if Naruto had did his Naruto thing just a little bit later, Team 7 would be walking out of that room as failures. Naruto and Sakura, in my eyes, utterly failed the first exam, and they got carried by luck in a loophole. The first exam is a good test, but by allowing the final question to dictate the passing of the entire phase of the exam, allowed for a participant to gather no information and answer no questions, but still pass the test by being stubborn. But while I believe that Naruto and Sakura really don't deserve to pass that first exam, they did. And Team 7 moves on to the second phase, the Forest of Death. Now, to be honest, the Forest of Death section is basically the reason for this video's existence, and the primary example of why Naruto and his team really had no business being in that exam in the first place. The second phase of the exam is an anything goes, no holds barred survival exercise, where shinobi teams are instructed to hold on to, but not check, the contents of a scroll, while seeking out other teams that have an opposite scroll to theirs, and taking it for themselves. A team completes the challenge by bringing both scrolls to a location within the forest under a certain amount of time. Lethal combat is allowed and encouraged, and the forest itself is filled with dangerous plants, animals, and insects. It is 100% a survival, live or die experience. Out of the 3 phases of the exam, it's probably the most realistic to the type of situations that real ninja experience, and thus requires every ninja skill and ability to be on point. Combat, survival, information gathering, tactics, teamwork, and everything in between. Team 7 begins to fail immediately. Sakura sends Naruto away because he needs to pee, and while I understand a little girl doesn't want to be watching a little boy pee, and maybe if you have to worry about them being immature because they're children, they shouldn't be here in the first place, it is a move that ultimately gets Naruto captured. Sakura doesn't notice it's not the real Naruto, and neither Naruto or Sakura are effective in this confrontation. The enemy also escapes even though it's a 3v1. It's not a good start at all. This one encounter kind of illustrates the issues that each team member has. Naruto is kind of dumb and is very hit or miss when it comes to combat. Sakura just doesn't do anything, and her supposed intelligence is never applied. And Sasuke kinda has to cover for both of them. It's a brief showcase of what's to come in the next encounter. Orochimaru shows up, and he's determined to force a confrontation with Sasuke in order to test him. Of course, you might be thinking, well, it's not really fair to judge their performance against an actual legendary ninja. And you're kinda correct. But I'm still going to do it anyway, because even though their opponent is Orochimaru, there are still several things that Team 7 do in this encounter that just show their lack of preparedness and ability. Let's start here. They should have prioritized escape. Now, that's probably somewhat controversial, considering part of the previous phase of the exam was about taking risks. However, there's a big difference between taking risks and running towards your death for zero purpose. Sasuke was right in my opinion when he said they aren't in the same league as this guy and began to focus on escape. However, the problem once again was Naruto. Naruto showing up, standing in plain view, announcing himself and offering a direct challenge pretty much destroyed the possibility of escaping, which led to Sasuke trying to offer the scroll up as a bargaining chip. And while yeah, simply giving Orochimaru the scroll was not the correct move, seeing as Orochimaru was never interested in the scroll in the first place, the general idea of we shouldn't be trying to fight this guy was correct in my opinion. However, Naruto had other ideas and calls Sasuke a coward for not fighting. And I have a problem with that. The first being that Naruto missed all of the tone-setting events. Like, he wasn't there to feel the sensation of his body getting torn to shreds through pure bloodlust. He was not there to have been paralyzed and almost killed. He wasn't there to see this dude astral project himself behind a giant snake and then climb his moist and gross body out of said snake. So to me, for Naruto to show up with zero information and then decide that Sasuke is being a little baby boy so tender and mild, to me, it's just unfair to kind of run with this idea that Sasuke is indeed being a coward when we know what Orochimaru is capable of, and seeing how things play out after that moment. Cue Naruto talking trash, to then immediately getting smacked through a tree, and move on to the whole, oh, you're a scary cat thing. 5-finger death punch or whatever it's called, and now Naruto is down for the count. You know, when I first saw the whole thing when I was a child, I was like, ooh, kill him, ooh. But now, watching it back, I'm kind of just like, boy, if you don't shut up, you literally just got saved by the fox. If you didn't have Kurama in your oven, you wouldn't have even been able to pull this off. So you don't get to brag and claim some sort of superiority or get your lick back when you're being carried by your out-of-control tailed beast. And then Sakura has the nerve to jump in too, talking about, oh, at least Naruto isn't a coward. Girl, if you... Ooh, I'm so angry. Girl, what about you? I don't see you jumping into anything. You have thrown nary a kunai at this dude. I ain't seen you move from this branch once. So now, Naruto is knocked out, Sakura is doing nothing, and Sasuke's back's gonna hurt like Flo Milli cause it's time for him to carry. Again. Even though Sasuke did do his thing, he still obviously didn't actually come close to accomplishing anything. And now he's got a curse mark to show for it. Obviously, even if they had tried to escape, there is no guarantee that they would have actually been able to do so. But my real problem is just the lack of thought, teamwork, and tactics, and everyone's overall combat capabilities. But none of this should be surprising because this unpreparedness, lack of cohesion, and inability to plan or strategize is what they've been showing us from the jump, all the way back to the Bell test. and even in the land of the waves. They survived that mission due to luck and circumstances. First off, I will give credit to Naruto and Sasuke's Demon Wind Shuriken attack, because that was just great. Naruto said, "I'ma throw a knife, but
Hold up. Wait a minute.
it's actually a guy, and that guy is me." Sasuke said, "Hold on, I sense a dude in here." Did a spin to hide the fact that he pulled out a second knife, threw them both in tandem to make Zabuza think the only thing that was going on was that there were two knives, and allow for Naruto to be like, "Surprise, motherfucker." Good stuff. But after that, there's nothing and it all falls apart. Let's get the obvious out of the way. Sakura does nothing. We see no combat skills, no ability to plan or strategize, and no ability to synchronize with her teammates. Yes, she is protecting Tazuna, but if Zabuza or Haku chose to target him first, she wouldn't be stopping them. Then there's Naruto and Sasuke, who got very, very lucky that Haku was a very nice boy. Haku could have killed them at any point in time, he just simply chose not to. And even under those conditions, he still outright defeated them with mild difficulty. And when he did finally lose, it wasn't because of their combat ability, it wasn't because of teamwork or tactics or the skills of Naruto and Sasuke. He lost because Kurama came to save the day. Add on the fact that Naruto was dumb enough to just walk directly into the center of the crystal ice mirrors with no plan, and you have to wonder what Kakashi saw that made him think they were worthy to be in the exam. This exact pattern essentially plays out once again within the Forest of Death, and it's an unfortunate reminder that they really shouldn't have been there. You may still be thinking, well, that's just because they were up against Orochimaru. Of course they'll have problems. But you gotta remember that the Chunin Exams is not limited by actual ability level. Anyone who is a Genin can enter regardless of abilities. My dude Gaara is literally right there. If they had have ran into Gaara and performed in the exact same way they did with Orochimaru, they would have died. If they had went against the three sound ninjas without Sasuke having the curse mark, they might not have survived. If they ran into Rock Lee, a boy who could do this, they would have lost. I mean, dear God, if they were even this team and ran into Kiba and them, they might not have survived. The level of ninja that can take part in the Chunin Exams is highly varied and doesn't seem to have a limit. I mean, Haku is easily a Chunin level ninja if not higher, and wouldn't even be considered a Genin. Kakashi himself says that there are plenty of kids in the world younger than him, but stronger than him. So why on Kaguya's green earth would he look at his team, who has bad teamwork, girl who has yet to show any practical abilities, a boy who's extremely hit or miss and often has to rely on the demon fox that he's not supposed to be using, and a single talented boy who must carry them both, and say, yeah, I think they're ready. We don't even need to go into Sakura versus the Sound Ninjas. It's very obvious that if not for being bailed out by their friends, who shouldn't have even been helping them in the first place, and the curse mark, which is not a good thing, they would have died. But hey, let's forget all that, because obtaining the scroll is only one part of the exam. Obeying orders is the other part of the exam, and they would have failed that too. If not for Kabuto stopping Naruto and Sakura from opening the scroll that would have eliminated them, well, they would have been eliminated. And it's pretty up in the air whether or not they would have made it to the end without Kabuto's assistance either. And even with that, they only got there at the last second. Overall, their performance in the Forest of Death was not good. Of course, there are a couple highlights, but their actual skills and abilities were not up to par to compete with most of the teams that we see in the exam. And the seeds of that lackluster performance had already sprouted for all to see prior to the start of the Chunin Exams. They were lucky. As for the preliminaries to the third phase of the exam, well, they aren't that bad. It isn't until the actual final exam where unpreparedness rears its ugly head. Naruto is set to fight Neji, the Hyuga prodigy, and he's set up to fail by his own sensei nonetheless. Kakashi leaves Naruto to train with Ebisu, which is just
Why would you do this?
Kakashi's explanation for this being that Ebisu is better at teaching the basics and Naruto needs to learn his basics. But all that he ended up teaching him was walking on water.
Really,
You telling me you couldn't do that, Kakashi?
Be better.
Why are you in charge in the first place? Now, to be fair, we didn't see what else Ebisu had in store for Naruto's training because he was immediately replaced by Jiraiya, which, thank God. But if the remaining training was along those lines, you're telling me Kakashi couldn't have done that? It seems like he just wanted to play favorites with Sasuke. Sasuke's situation of having to fight Gaara as well as dealing with the curse mark is definitely a situation that needs to be taken seriously, but is having the nine-tailed fox that has been leaking out its chakra and having to fight Neji also not a serious situation? Kakashi even acknowledges that the fox is a massive issue in Naruto's development before dumping him off on Ebisu. Not to mention the fact that Naruto just had the Five Guys seal placed on him. Like, seriously, if Jiraiya hadn't shown up in the village, what would have happened to Naruto? He would have had to fight Neji while still having the fifth element seal and zero control over the fox's chakra, which means he would have lost. Not to mention, he wouldn't have learned the summoning technique. All of these things being very important for the coming events. And let's be honest, even if training with Ebisu granted Naruto the perfect use of the fundamentals, that wouldn't have been enough to beat Neji. Jiraiya doesn't even work on the fundamentals really after the whole water walking thing. He basically just hands him the keys to 2 bombs.
They're bombs.
Naruto was basically set up to fail and was lucky that Jiraiya was there. It all worked out in the end, but it's also kind of a shame because Naruto and Sasuke training together could have been good for them. It's been shown that they tend to push each other forward and they could have helped each other to grow, but Kakashi was playing favorites. He even high-key says as much. He kind of just left Naruto by the wayside and poor Sakura doesn't get anything. Like, I know she's eliminated, but dog, do your job. Teach your students something. Sir, you know like 1,000 jutsu supposedly, including the Rasengan. You telling me you couldn't hand something over to your other students who have shown to consistently be overall less capable than the one you are giving special treatment to? Sir, someone call CPS. Help those children.
help me!
If you look at their performance, what you see is a ninja who lacks any notable practical skills and is fine to let her teammates handle it all. Another ninja who doesn't think anything through and has a spotty record when it comes to combat, lacks the fundamentals of ninjutsu, and is constantly having to rely on the nine-tailed fox, which at this point he shouldn't be doing because he has zero to limited control over it. And then you have a single ninja who is highly skilled and competent at basically everything. This whole time, that has kind of been staring this whole video's concept in the face. Sasuke. Sasuke was 100% prepared and ready. Sasuke handled basically everything perfectly. He was able to deduce and act on the objectives of the first exam. He was able to come up with great plans and tactics in the second exam and even take into consideration the different aspects of his teammates. He very clearly fought the best and only really struggled due to Orochimaru's influence. In the prelims to the third exam, he was even able to defeat his opponent even though he had a severe handicap. Then, by the final exam, he was able to gain enough ability to deal more damage to Gaara than anyone ever had. Sasuke honestly had plenty of business being in the Chunin exams. It was really Naruto and Sakura that had no business being there, and maybe this is just another case of Kakashi playing favorites, not wanting to let Naruto and Sakura hold him back. I mean, he did show that he was willing to prioritize helping him over the others. Kinda makes you wonder. Now obviously that is extreme headcanon and I don't even believe that myself, but to me, there's just no real in-universe justification for nominating the entire team for the Chunin exams when it's very well known what types of challenges will be faced. Like, how can you tell Naruto that he lacks fundamentals, but then in the same breath put him in a life or death exam? Like, I don't know, man. The other teams in their generation don't really have the same problems. Yes, they are young and probably too should have waited a year, but they all at least had stuff that Team 7 didn't. fantastic teamwork and strong abilities and gimmicks. Shikamaru and them literally have generational teamwork. Add on the fact that Shikamaru is one of, if not the smartest character in the series, along with the powerful mind transfer technique, you can pretty much bank on them being able to strategize and plan extremely well. Hinata's team kinda flies under the radar because they're more of a recon team, but they also are really good. Shino is broken. He's broken. Kiba has really good senses and can output some pretty good damage. The combo of Kiba and Shino also gives the team a very strong understanding and connection to nature, which basically aids in survival. Hinata, while not being one to want to engage in combat, is still stronger in hand-to-hand combat than most others, and has the Byakugan, which is super strong for a lot of different things. So again, you can pretty much bank on them doing well. The problem with Team 7 is that you can really only bank on Sasuke, and that's just not enough. I love the Chunin Exams arc. It's one of the best arcs in Naruto, and it's super engaging even on a rewatch. It holds some of my favorite moments in Naruto and all of anime. It's also one of the few times where we get to see the other ninja in Naruto's generation truly shine. However, it is that fact that everyone else shines so bright that shows just how dull Team 7 really were at that point. And it's what makes me feel like Team 7 just shouldn't have been part of the Chunin Exams.